Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, it's Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, yeah. Welcome to Writeopolis, featuring authors RJ Barker, Scott K. Andrews and Kid Power, and, often, a guest. Writeopolis is recorded live via Discord on alternating Sunday evenings, a conversational show with audience participation, bark on without the BS. Funded entirely through the generosity of our Patreon backers. Patreon.com/Writeopolis Podcast. Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, it's Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, yeah.
It was my lead.
It was your lead. There you go. Not obviously couldn't be the headphones. They were too expensive. They're too
expensive to go wrong without me being very, very sad. I think.
Logically, it had to be the lead. Although Womble was asking if it was your ear, which
I've got quite good ears apart from tinnitus, which is the only thing wrong with my ears.
Yes, the old rock and roll. It does exact its price, does it not?
Yeah. Have we got a Scott? Have we not got a Scott?
Not so far.
No.
But I choose to remain optimistic that he's on his way.
He might turn up.
He might. It's possible.
We could just do an intro, couldn't we? In the meantime.
Well, it is season 2, so I feel like we should.
It's okay then. Hello everybody, welcome to the first episode of season 2 of Writeopolis, which is already, Kit will have cut it all out, hopefully. Off to a very Writeopolis start, seeing as I couldn't get it to work. And we don't know where Scott is.
Not a clue.
No, it's just me and Kit for now. We didn't arrange a guest. We thought it could just be us. So, yeah, that's the entirety of my intro for this one, unless you've got some introing to add, Kit.
No, I think that's about right. I mean, it did kind of occur to both of us that, we'd having a month's worth of stuff to catch up on probably meant that, we didn't want to inflict that on a guest, really. So no. Hopefully we can clear the air between us this time and then get back to the regular format next time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest news for the month we've been off is that I've had an absolutely terrible cold, which I can't get rid of and still have now. So I might cough a lot through this. But you can probably edit that out.
Maybe. Who knows?
That would be a lot of work, wouldn't it?
It's all a mystery. No, I genuinely don't know if I can or not until I try. It's one of those things. We'll see. It's possible. I think with these recordings, you get the individual tracks and Audacity, so I could just mute you every time you cough. Unless, of course, crucially, leaving it in is better comedy value. But that's obviously an editorial judgment call I'll have to make in the edit. So we'll see what happens.
That would be mean. Do you think I should text Scott?
I just dropped him a line in the super secret chat. But maybe if you've got his number, maybe drop him a text as well.
I think I do.
I did think that we said it was happening, but
I'm sure we did. But this should have gone before the intro, really, shouldn't it?
Well, again, it may or may not make the final cut on the edit. That's fine.
Scott Andrews, hi. Scott, are you? Do you speak your texts when you type in them, Kit?
Only if I'm recording a podcast.
Okay, yeah, because it's better radio, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I've texted him. I've texted the number I have for him. Doesn't mean it is him. I could just really confuse someone very random.
The magical mystery tour begins.
Brianna Cinder is here. I don't think we've had Brianna before, so welcome.
We haven't. No, welcome, Brianna.
Yeah.
It is always at least this organised, Brianna. I promise you.
Yeah, it's quite depressing, really, if you've just popped in. But anyway, Kit, what have you been working on while we've been? And because I know Mrs. Kit wasn't very well. Is she better?
She is, yeah. That's really been the headline. So, I basically lost. I lost, half of July and most of August, despite being double vaccinated. Inconveniently, she still managed to get COVID, which was, kind of upsetting for all involved. And it did take an unreasonable amount of time to shift. But yes, she is, I would say, 98% better and clearly going to make a full recovery, which is great.
That's good.
But we had a very scary couple of weeks, and then just a kind of, once we got through the scary bit, then there's just the kind of unpleasant bit, which is obviously better than the scary bit because you're not worried about how bad it's going to get anymore. But then it's like, how long is this going to take to get better? And obviously, you know, we've all read a lot of horror stories about long COVID and stuff, so it was a bit of a time. So yeah, didn't get a huge amount done in that period, but since then, I have kind of reconnected with my co-author on the seemingly never-ending novel, and we actually have now finished the production of new material that relates to the edit, and we've now divvied up the rest of the work in terms of going through the chapter by chapter editorial notes. I'm going to do odd numbers, he's going to do evens. And once that's done, it will go back to the editor. So we are aiming to get the next phase of editing done by the end of September. That's the deadline we've set ourselves. So it is actually progressing, and we've done a lot more than I realised. Actually, when you look at the amount of new material we produced, actually there was a lot of work, and we have done a lot of work, and it's, I think, good stuff, hopefully. So yeah,
that's quite. Fiddles is just, this is a complete aside. Said that I'm committing to the Gothic bit by having consumption, which if Kit is editing out my coughs, you won't know. But if he's not, you will. But I've actually had consumption. That is how goth I am.
nice.
Because when I was first diagnosed with Crohn's disease, they X-ray all of you to make sure they can give you these insanely powerful drugs, and they found scarring on my lungs from TB, which is consumption, the same thing.
Yeah.
So they said, right, you've got to take the antibiotics for it just in case it's still hanging around. So I took them, and they turn your wee and your tears purple.
That's like the gothest thing ever.
and it's not like a little bit purple, it's proper.
Bright purple.
Yeah, proper Cadbury's Dairy Milk purple. Tears.
So the disease is so gothic that even the cure makes you more gothic. That's amazing. That is so wonderful.
I was literally going to cut onions just for the fun of coming into the front room covered in purple tears. Look at me. So anyway, we've lost Kit.
Oh no, you haven't. I'm still here.
I thought you went very quiet then.
I was leaning back as I laughed to not overload everybody's ears. So what have you been? A busy old beaver, haven't you? You've been working away.
Yeah, I've been. Yeah, but I made a mistake, so I'm busier than I'd actually want to be. But I finished editing Incy Wincy, which is, well, the second Mal and Jackie book. I was doing that for RJ Dark because he's very lazy.
Yeah.
And annoyingly, I liked it when I read it. Just infuriating when it's your nemesis.
So irritating.
Yeah, but it's quite a fun book, and it introduces more of Jackie. I think of it as one of the editor's things about it when it came back was there's a lot of Jackie and not much Mal, but I think it is Jackie's book. The second one, it's more about him and where he's come from, and you discover a bit more about him. And there's some really horrible people in it.
Cool.
And people you may think horrible from the first one turn out not to be quite what you think they are.
That's interesting.
I'm a big fan of people being more than you think they are. I mean, they're not. You won't want to be mates with them. But
it's an interesting thing. I got caught up in a Twitter conversation about this recently. I think I've talked about it on the show before about the King of the Hill trick about the problems I have with Hank Hill. You stop him being right-wing, he's not funny anymore, but he's so right-wing, he's a caricature and nobody likes him. And then the way they fixed it was by giving him a bunch of even more insane friends. Yeah. So they didn't tone him down at all. But it worked. It fixed the problem of King of the Hill and made it, an incredibly successful show. And it actually applies all over the place. And the conversation, I was actually with Brian Keane, a couple of other people on the Twitter thread, but we got to talking about, like, Deadwood's a great example of that. Where the first episode of that show, everybody, including Al, definitely looked like a villain. And then 2 episodes in, the real villain moves in down the street, and you're like, oh, okay. No, it's more complicated. So I like, and it is that layered thing. I think that's really interesting.
And I think people are complicated, and that's when a book works. People have if something's very sort of surface. It just doesn't. I'm going to get onto this later on when we get onto the things we've been media and stuff like that.
Right.
And then I went back to writing the fantasy book, which, as we all know, I'd been desperately putting off again and again.
Right.
And I got about 90 odd thousand words into it and was quite happily trotting along. Or actually, not happily. I was very aware it didn't work in a way I wanted it to, and I wasn't 100% sure why. And then my editor got in touch, and I thought my deadline was next March.
Right.
But it turns out that I've just invented that.
Right.
And it's the end of October.
That's significantly closer.
It is quite a bit closer. And I realised...
Math's not my strong suit, but that sounds closer to me.
Yeah, it's definitely close. I had a little bit of a panic.
I would think.
Yeah, and my agent, Ed, who we've all met, said we can probably push it back if you want. They're not in a massive hurry because we've got a lot. I mean, Call of the Book, Budget's Wake isn't out till the end of this month.
Right.
So we've got like a year, I imagine, before the next book. But I thought, no, I'm going to go for it. And I'd realised what I'd done is I'd actually written book 1 and part of book 2 unsatisfactorily.
Okay.
So I cut it back to 60,000 words and started again from the beginning, not rewriting everything, just going through what I'd already written and then adding bits in. And I think it's a lot better, and it's a much smaller book in its focus. It doesn't really leave a really small geographical area, and it's about someone. I don't know. I might get in trouble for telling you this, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Such a rebel.
Yeah, it's about someone who thinks they want to be an outsider and slowly realizes that maybe they do need other people, which is, I think, a favourite subject of mine, kind of.
Yep.
That's a lot of my things. But yeah, and it's a very odd world. It's quite fun. Fun to write in. Oh.
Well, that's good. At least that bit's fun.
Yeah, so I'm trotting along with that. I think I'm back up to about 80,000 words now. So I probably will have a version.
You'll have something to hand over.
Yeah, and I did what I do a lot, which is I thought, what do I really not enjoy when I'm reading? And that's sort of second person present tense.
Right.
So I've dropped some second person present tense into it.
Nice.
Just to kind of play with things that challenge me a bit and see how that works. But you never know until you hand it in. Do you? That's the thing with your book.
No, absolutely.
Is it any good? But that's what I've been working on, and I've been at lots of weddings as well. There's two weddings that have been put off. One family, one a friend, and we went to Cornwall to visit a friend down there, which was really nice. And we just had a really relaxing 2 weeks where Lindy, my wife, forbid me to take a computer.
Wow.
Which was quite good, actually. I didn't know at that point about the October deadline.
Yes, might have been slightly less relaxing under those circumstances, but never mind.
Yeah, but we had a really relaxing time, and the friends we stayed with live out in the middle of nowhere, so got to sit out and watch the Aquarid meteor shower in August, which was
fantastic. Yeah,
we saw 2 meteors, which is
nice.
Could be better, but it was quite fun. And what else did? Oh, I met a cousin of my wife's, and I'm sort of turned up in a kind of, I've got to meet family way that you do when you're meeting new family people. Turns out he's a rocket scientist.
Nice.
Yeah, so I was just kind of a bit in awe of that. And he was explaining to me how technically you can go faster than light, even though you actually can't go faster than light.
I love science. I love it so much.
Yeah, so that was really good. And that's what I've been doing while we've been off. And what nice. Scott, what have you been doing? We don't know, Scott, because you're not here. No,
so we'll never know. Because we're not going to ask you in a fortnight's time because you had your shot and you blew it, mate.
Yeah, my bet though is he's been watching old episodes of Doctor Who. Yeah,
that's a possibility, and hopefully working hard on a writing project. That's the other thing.
Yes, because he's doing a novella, isn't he?
That's right, and which I'm really excited for him. So I'm glad he's doing that. The deadline conversation, actually, you did remind me. I have had a similar-ish kind of thing happen. You know, it's not exactly the same, but you know that thing when someone says, "Oh, do you want to do a thing?" and you're like, "Oh yeah, sure. When?" And I say, "Oh, I don't know." And I'm like, "Okay, but give me a deadline." And they say, "Oh, sometime. Just say, let's just say end of September, right?" And when they say that, it's March, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, yeah, great, sure. So I do actually have to, in addition to getting the novel finished this month, or the next round of edits on the novel finished this month, I do actually have to write 3 short stories.
Oh, but they're only short. So.
3. That's the plus side. One of them's very short because I'm doing one for the. I'm not at all stalling, so I can look up the name. But the Tiny Bookcase podcast, they have actually invited me on, and I'm going to write a story for them.
Brilliant! See, I chickened out of that.
Yeah, no, I love it because it reminded me of being in school. The thing of like, we'll give you 3 titles and you got to write a story. I was like, oh yeah, no, let's do that. And they only want I think they want like 1,500 words or something. So
it's 800 to 1,500.
Yeah, there you go. So it's a flash piece. So that shouldn't be too tough. And the other 2 I've got are I've got an assignment for writing a story set in the environment where the land meets the sea. So either a beach or a salt marsh or whatever, like one of those environments. And I've chosen sea caves, and I've already got the idea for that. And the other one, I have to say, of the 3, my favourite brief is the one I've got, which is just someone's doing an anthology of James Herbert / Guy and Smith style When Creatures Attack. And it's just a collection of short stories of creatures attacking, and I managed to get in early, and I've got badgers.
I'm quite jealous.
And I am
Are you a British badger?
Well,
Don't betray us.
If I tell you the story is called The Cull.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you'd gone with like the honey badger or something, I was just never going to speak to you again.
No.
And Writeopolis would have become very uncomfortable.
The thing is, well, that would have made it awkward as a show. Yes, it would have presented challenges for the format. But yes, I love, because like badgers are already kind of tough, grumpy animals. Like if you hit a badger in your car, it's 50-50 for the badger, but the underneath of your car is definitely fucked. So I'm quite a fan of badgers, and the idea that badgers might just finally turn around and say, you know what, we've had enough of your shit, humanity. It feels actually quite plausible at this point, or at least as plausible as anything does in 2021. So I'm quite looking forward to it. Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot.
They're amazing. My wife's family used to live down in Devon. They would have badgers would come to their garden. They'd put out peanuts.
Yeah,
the whole family would come, and you could just sit and watch them. You had to stay up till 1 a.m. because badgers are rock and roll. They don't go to bed early.
Well, that's the other thing that's great about them, isn't it? They're just they're awesome creatures. I love them. So, I couldn't resist that. So that's I got some work to do. But the nice thing is, in all 3 cases, because I've got the title I'm working on as well for the bookcase, I do know what I want to do. So I'm really hopeful that it'll be a quick process. But,
can you tell us your tiny bookcase subject?
I probably shouldn't, but yeah, I'm going to. I was given a choice of 3 titles. And I won't tell you what the other 2 were because they may want to reuse them. Yeah. But I could not resist when one of the titles was The Hardest Break.
That's a good one.
I was like, yeah, I'm having that.
We're going to have the Tiny Bookcase boys on here.
Oh, fab.
And do you know when you're doing it?
Soon. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to try and get a slot in. Yeah, so
we should probably get them on after you've done it.
Yeah, definitely. That would be good.
Because they're lovely, lovely boys. And one of them's in a band.
Oh, okay.
And he said he was in a band. I thought I'd check out your band. In that way you do, where you kind of think, oh, God, I wish you hadn't told me that, because now I'm going to have to listen to them. But they're actually really good.
Oh, it's always a relief, isn't it?
And probably more your sort of thing than mine, because they're very classic rock.
Okay, yeah, I don't mind a bit of classic rock, as we know.
Yeah, I sort of listened to them and thought, oh, this is the sort of thing Kit would listen to.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, no, okay, I'll give it a go.
Yeah, so it's not. I'd have to be embarrassed if they come on and pretend that I enjoyed it, because I actually did.
And everyone listening, we've got this as your alibi as well. So yeah, that's
good. But do check out the Tiny Bookcase podcast. It's really the idea of it is they're learning to write, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're on the journey, and they get writers who are further along the journey to come in, and they all write a story about that subject.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, then they all read it and critique each other's stories, and then afterwards they do like an hour interview. So you get a 2 hours podcast out of each guest, and they're just really nice.
I really like the format, and as I say, I mean, I couldn't. They were very nice, and they did say, "Look, if you want to use something you've already done," but I love the challenge of just producing a flash piece, and the choice. As I say, the choice of 3 titles does take me back to the only thing about school, literally the only thing about school I ever really enjoyed. was when you were given 4 titles and you had to produce a short story. That was always like, so yeah, it's very cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I chickened out and I used an old story that I never thought got enough love.
To be fair, RJ, you did have an unexpected deadline to deal with, so I think it's probably fair.
Yeah, I didn't know at that point though. It probably was just cheating. But,
I think subconsciously maybe you did. I don't know.
I possibly did, because I think it turned out that my agent told me it was March in a dream, and
right.
And I've told Ed that I've fired the dream version of him.
I would, after that. Yeah. Because that's unforgivable.
And he better watch it.
Talking of bands, by the way, I think both of our offspring ended up taking part in a rock school thing this summer. Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't see that yours did.
Yeah. No,
I'm
I didn't.
not on Facebook very much, I presume.
No, I haven't posted about it.
Right.
But she did. Yeah, kiddo went and did rock school for a week over. So she's been doing it for the past term, and it's a bit awkward because she's at that age where she's either the oldest in the junior group or the youngest in the seniors, and she'd stayed in the juniors, but it was getting a bit like you're actually a bit ahead. She's playing the keyboard, and it was just like you're actually practicing every day, and most of them aren't, and you're actually got some talent as well. So she's going to move up to the seniors next term. But yeah, they did. She did the summer school, and the four songs they did were so the first one was like, the George Ezra Shotgun, and you're just like, oh man, because it's just it's never going to be my cup of tea, is it? But then they did like Black Sabbath Paranoid, and I was like, cool. Yeah, that was awesome. And Jailhouse Rock, and I can't remember the other one, so it probably wasn't very good. But yeah, cracking, really fun.
Yeah, The Boys is a bit different in that it's like purely a week thing. That they're just put with people around the same age, and then they do 2 covers and they write 2 originals.
Wow! Yeah,
and then at the end of the week, there's a club called the Wardrobe, which has loads of really famous people on. They put on a gig,
right? And
they play for the audience, for all the parents and any friends that want to come along. And they did Back in Black.
Nice.
Yeah, he's done that before, though. I kind of thought he was cheating a bit there. Yeah, did you see An Easy Way Out? Because he is my son. And then they did Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin.
Wow.
He totally shocked me when he said he was singing it, not playing guitar.
Goodness.
Yeah.
That's a heck of a vocal, too.
Yeah, and he does not come from parents that have singing voices.
Right.
But he went for it. That's the best way of describing it, I think.
Yep. No, but that's good because one of the weird things watching the kids doing the singing was most of them didn't, and I felt really sad because I had in my head this idea of like, the kids will be great because they'll just go for it, and they weren't. They were so cripplingly shy and kind of in themselves, and it was like, I don't know if any of you are good at this because you're not letting it go at all. Do you know what I mean? You're too kind of. It's I forgot how shy kids get, it was kind of a bit weird.
It's quite nice watching him because he's not. He can be quiet, but on a stage, he's not shy. And they had to do a change over because they got a new drummer who was left-handed.
Right.
And he just did like a 7-minute stand-up slot.
Fantastic.
A bit egged on by the guy that was there helping them. But
sure.
He stole most of it from David O'Doherty's Danger is Everywhere books.
Nice.
But there was no fear there.
That's very cool.
He does Leeds Youth Theatre as well because he's quite into that. So it is quite useful. That's probably more like your daughter does music.
Well, kiddos, funnily enough, although I think now she's heading to secondary school, I think she is going to join the theatre group. She did the last thing they did at junior school was Midsummer Night's Dream. And it was freaky because she got the role of Peter Quince. And I actually played Peter Quince, age 11, in a youth theatre group. So it was very, very strange. And she loved it. And watching the videos, it was like... And that thing, we could say this because none of them are going to be listening. But most of the kids just aren't very good, right? And then you'll get especially with a theatre production, you'll get maybe 2 or 3 kids that have gone beyond just, repeating the lines and are actually trying to work out how to make them happen. And luckily... at least the kid playing bottom, you could see was really going for it. So luckily in that bit of the play, you actually got a real kind of vibe, because obviously she was Peter Quint, so they were really bouncing off each other, and it was actually really fun. But I was actually thinking, like, yeah, she's going to be wanting to do more of this. I can see, like, you know, you see her eyes,
got a
like,
year to go before he's really letting himself go in that sort of thing, because he's still, I mean, he's starting secondary school, but he's still quite young, actually. But you could see that he was loving what he was doing. And I think that's.
I mean, 7 minutes of stand-up, that takes some bottle. It just does.
That was more him letting go, I think, than the other stuff. It wouldn't shock me if he kind of went that way in the end.
Yeah,
because he does seem to, and he's a funny little monkey. Too funny. So I think he'll get in trouble at secondary school.
Right? Yeah.
But we shall see. Anyway, media, because we've already been speaking for half an hour. Well,
we have.
Yeah, because they want to hear about our children.
Well, of course they do. Yeah. Who wouldn't? Yeah. Our children are awesome. Unlike other people's children who are frankly mediocre, ours are actually awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's. You should edit
sorry.
that out.
Demonstrate.
I mean, it's true, but you should
edit that. It is true. No, I don't care.
Yeah. I have watched so much stuff.
Okay.
During the break.
Yeah.
And I've also read a book, which I'm quite proud of.
Good.
Well, I've not
Excellent.
finished it yet.
Okay.
But I have watched so much terrible stuff.
Oh, interesting.
During the break. Just really, really bad. And it's not often that I get to, we talk about things that are really bad, but that's more or less all I've got to talk about. Though I did download the 2000 AD Humble Bundle.
Oh, I think I missed that, annoyingly.
I think it might still be there.
Okay.
But
if it is, drop me a link, because I'm all over that.
And I'd forgotten how brilliant 2000 AD is.
Yes.
And just
at its best. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing quite as good at it. American comics don't do it for me, but 2000 AD does.
Yeah.
And I finished reading it, and I've had this idea kicking around, and I realised why I've never been able to do it, because it's clearly a graphic novel. It's visual. It's not a written thing. And I thought, but I've never. But at the back of all the comics, it has some of the scripts, so you can see how you actually write a comic script. Which I found. I thought, I'm gonna have a go at that. That's when the deadline dropped, so I've not done it yet. But I'm gonna
have a go.
And I'm reading The Justice of Kings by James Swan, which comes out in February from Orbit. And
nice.
As people know, I'm not generally a fantasy reader. It's a bit Busman's Holiday.
Sure.
But it was described to me as Judge Dredd meets Matthew Shardlake, which are two of my favourite characters. Have you come across Matthew Shardlake? He's
nope.
A hunchback lawyer in the court of King Henry and Mary I.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they're brilliant. And basically, he just wants to do good. And he keeps being dragged into the orbit of these terrible people who he knows will kill him if he gets in the way.
Right.
But he can't stop doing the right thing. And they're just wonderful. There is this sort of very much this feeling of everything is going to go wrong. In fact, every time somebody reads one of my books and says, "Oh, it's got a very Robin Hobb feel," it's Matthew Shardlake that they're getting.
Right.
Because she does that. She has this feeling of everything's going to go wrong for these people, but it's CJ Sansom's, which is just great. And Justice of Kings, is it Shardlake and Judge Dredd? Probably not, but it is very good. I'm quite jealous of it. So that's
always a good sign.
Yeah, it's worth putting on your thing. And what else did I write that I really enjoyed? Clickbait, which has just come up on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I've seen that it exists, but I haven't watched it yet.
It's very good.
Okay, I'll give that a go.
Awful things happen and people act in very realistic ways you expect them to.
Right.
Which people often don't, in that they completely freak out.
Right.
And cannot cope with what is happening. And it's not unrelentingly grim.
Okay.
And people are well-meaning but a bit good, and absolutely sold me the red herring. I did not see the real end coming at all.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So clickbait is worth your time.
I would
I'll
give that a go.
And I'll pass over to you before I start ranting about the things I've watched that I hated with a passion.
No, okay, cool. I'm trying to think now. So I actually finally, I think literally 2 nights ago, finally finished Tracy Fahey's I Spit Myself Out, which she came on and talked about a few months back now. I have been savouring it because it's a very dense collection of short stories. I mean, like, it's emotionally difficult. And it sounds ridiculous, but I needed to keep dipping in and out. So I've been reading other things. I'm still reading the Nine Inch Nails book, the book about Diamond Spiral. I've nearly finished that. And it's a superb piece of work. It's a very thorough kind of investigation of that album and the themes. Again, actually quite densely written and a bit more thinky than I'm used to, if I'm honest. So I've been dipping in and out. Simon Bestwick's short story collection, and Shall Not Come Again, I think it's called. I forget how good Simon is, which is a stupid thing to say, but I come back to Simon's work every now and then, and he always just blows me away. He's got a real there is a very kind of British sensibility about his work. He does in some ways remind me of Banks in his approach to kind of character, I think, a bit, and voice. It's a lot of it's quite class focused, but without being in any way preachy or kind of anything like that. It just is just in his choice of characters, his choice of settings. And I'm terrible because I'm never good at remembering story names, but there's a novella in there which is ostensibly set in a mental institution, and then starts being about a boarding school. And it's a long old story. It's about, I think it's maybe 10 or 12K. And it is, I mean, it's a cliche, but I started reading it and I just couldn't stop. It absolutely grabbed me by the collar and wouldn't let go. And it reminded me structurally of a short story called Concussion by Ramsey Campbell from Demons by Daylight. And it's like, it's that good, like it's really just, and it's not really of a piece of the rest of the stories. The rest of the stories are much more kind of, and I don't mean this as an insult, but they're much more conventional short horror stories, various kinds of short horror crime, that kind of existential, that whole kind of grey area. But this one, man, he just completely let rip, and it was fantastic. And it kind of, I just love it. I love it when a writer just decides to just, throw every bit of caution to the wind and just do it, and it's one of those. So that's been real fun to read as well. As I say, I finished Tracy's book. I'll be doing a review for Ginger Nuts in the next week or two, and it'll probably go up on Patreon as well. But I mean, she's just an absurd talent, Tracy. She really is. And that collection is going to stay with me for a long time. It really is. So as far as visual media, what have I been watching? We did watch Sweet Tooth, and I found out there was going to be a season 2, and that's good, because otherwise I might have had to have you killed, because my kid fell in love with it, and then we got to the end and it was like, wait, what? Yeah, you're just getting started, you bastards.
But it's brilliant, isn't it? It's just lovely.
Yeah, beautiful.
And quite brutal.
Yeah. Sorry, Alicia, it was called, I think it's called And Will Not Come Again. It's a collection of short stories by Simon Bestwick. It's by Simon Bestwick. Yeah. My dear friend Simon Bestwick, whose name I've never forgotten under any circumstances. And it's superb, yeah. Go on.
Fiddles has just said that he's hooked on Bosch. So that's our obligatory mention of Bosch.
Bosch, yeah, because I still haven't. But that's fine. And what else have we watched? I watched a few. I watched that Netflix did an amazing sort of true life movie about the 2003 whistleblower, the woman who blew the whistle on American and British intelligence attempts to blackmail or gather blackmail material on members of the UN Security Council in order to push through a second resolution on Iraq, because they knew that the war was going to be illegal otherwise. And that was quite something.
What was that called? Because I that went over my head. Didn't even see that.
Names, who knows, man. But it was good. Later on. Yeah, I'll figure it. But that was superb. I really, really enjoyed that. It kind of brought back a lot of emotion. We watched it the same week. It's been a bit of a weird week for me, or a couple of weeks for me, with the news and everything, because obviously we watched it the same week that Afghanistan just kind of collapsed into an utterly predictable mess again. And it was kind of hard watching it. I mean, I know it was about Iraq rather than, but it still had that kind of thing of like, shit, like we really haven't learned a great deal, have we?
No, I mean, any student of history knew what was coming in Afghanistan.
Yeah,
because empires have been breaking on Afghanistan for thousands of years.
As I said in my Sherlock Holmes podcast when we were recording on Study in Scarlet, there's a story that was written over 100 years ago, and the opening chapter is Watson is returning from Afghanistan as an injured war veteran. It's like 100 years ago. We learned absolutely nothing. It's very frustrating. So that was kind of good. And related to that, so then we watched the Stephen, which was the 3-parter about the Lawrence investigation, the Stephen Lawrence investigation, and the copper who finally managed to secure a couple of convictions. Is
that unremittingly grim or not?
No, it's not actually. And the reason it's not is because the lead, the copper, is played by Steve Coogan. And he doesn't strictly play it for laughs, but he does bring a bit of levity to it here and there. And it is a good story. It will make you angry. I mean, it did come out of it at the end, and I was furious. And it's not, again, surprisingly spiky about the Met in general. Coogan's, because you think I kind of went in thinking, this is going to be a bit of propaganda. This is going to be like, we made good kind of thing. But Coogan's very isolated in the Met, actually. His character is very isolated in the Met, and he's not given a lot of help. And it is kind of like, it's quite spiky. And it is that thing about, like, I mean, not to spoil the ending, but I mean, those of you who follow the news story know that in terms of how it went in terms of convictions there, you'd have to call it a partial result at best. You know what I mean? Like, so that was kind of interesting. And then the other thing I can remember, this is all from the last week, by the way. I've been watching a month's worth of stuff, but I can only remember last week because that's how my brain works. And this one did actually, I can't recommend this, but there was a program on 9/11, and it was interviewing most of the Bush White House, including Bush, Cheney, Condoleezza Rice, about the events of the day itself and a couple of days afterwards. And there was a moment there where Dick Cheney described how on the day they were worried about what our enemies might do, because one of your big concerns is what's going to happen with the Soviets. You know that thing where you think, okay, I know he's an old man now, but he is talking about what happened then. And it's like the Soviets in 2001 hadn't existed for 20 years. And it's just that realization of the mentality of the men, mainly men, and the odd woman involved in that moment in our history. And again, when you take that with the thing about, the whistleblower and Afghanistan and the whole, it was just like, I'm feeling quite miserable about everything now. So.
Yeah, I deliberately did watch that. I saw it and thought, I'm not going to put myself through that.
It did nothing for my blood pressure whatsoever. And the other thing is just seeing these. I mean, I don't, I try and take it easy on the politics because I know everyone's got their opinion. But as far as I'm concerned, they are actually war criminals. Those people, like, they really, like, all joking aside, they really are. There's hundreds of thousands of dead people in Iraq and thousands of service. So, American and British service people who should never have been there in the first place. In Iraq, in particular, I mean, you can argue about Afghanistan, but there was no reason for anyone to be in Iraq. And it had nothing to do with 9/11. And it just they're sat there looking very comfortable in their very comfortable shirts and their very nice haircuts and their very, picturesque suntans. And you just kind of want to burn everything down, which is not a great place to be.
Adam Smith's Bitter Lake?
I don't think so. It doesn't ring a bell.
He does, like, they're documentaries, but they're cut up documentaries where he speaks.
I think you've mentioned him before. Yeah,
he's a bit like Jonathan Meades, but Bitter Lake is. I think it's about a year before us pulling out of Afghanistan. But basically, he just says this is what's going to happen,
right?
And he just lays it all out in the entire history of it. It's an amazing thing to watch. It's a brilliant documentary, incredibly disconcerting with the way he puts images together that not necessarily images of what he's talking about or what he's showing you. It's meant to pull a number on you.
Right.
It's really clever, but it's worth your time to watch. I think you'll like it. I think it's your sort of thing. It's
Cool.
very, very political.
Yeah. No, sounds good. So yeah,
Would you
sorry, it's all been a bit of a bloody downer, really, for me. Except the only one that is good is the new Mercutio thing about the submarine. I've only watched the first two, but I'm really enjoying that.
You've got to watch that, and also watched the first of the new Vera series, which was just does what Vera does, and that's brilliant.
Right, cool.
Because I can watch Brenda Blethyn's relationship with her second in command is just superb. He's clearly he's there. He looks after her, and she's horrid to him. But he knows she loves him like a son. It's just really lovely. They're two actors that have worked it out, and you can tell watching them, and it just works. It's lovely. I just want to compliment you on the phrase "propaganda." I've never heard that before. And
I can't take credit. That's Lefty Twitter's great for stuff like that. Lefty Twitter will give you all the new buzzwords, and propaganda's the one. Well, that's a rabbit hole there. I'm not going to go down.
Do you want a list of things to absolutely avoid?
I'm going to give a 1-sentence review of the new My Name Is series, though, which is absolutely fantastic, and that I did enjoy. It's heart-rending stuff, but really amazingly good. But yes, please go ahead.
I've not heard of that.
Yeah, it's a series, so it's a mini series, but it's 3 episodes, and it's 3 different women, and it's just My Name Is whatever the name of the woman is, and one of them was about a woman with increasingly debilitating anxiety. Another one was about a woman who struggled committing to relationships. And the middle one was amazing. It was the woman who did the sitcom Mum. I don't know if you ever caught that, but that was just gobsmackingly brilliant. And it was her. And she was a woman approaching retirement age and just really struggling with her marriage. And they're super focused scripts, and they're really kind of acting. I mean, amongst other things, they're acting masterclass. You know, they really give the leads a chance to shine, and they're great. I mean, they're not particularly easygoing, and certainly not especially lighthearted, but just superb drama. Really enjoyed all 3 of them.
I was going to say, from your description of them, I'm not sure they're for me.
No, maybe not. I mean, they're not for everyone, but they are good. Yeah. They are really, really good. Just quality telly, you know.
Scott, I think it was last time, told us about Starstruck.
Okay.
Which is about a woman who has a one-night stand with someone really famous without realising they're really famous.
Okay.
That was on the BBC and said how much he enjoyed it. And we watched it because he said that, and we really enjoyed it. It's really good.
Okay.
Funny, grown up, and not cringy, just sort of quite real. It kind of think, have you done this when you're watching it? Because it has that kind of realism to it. It feels like she's just like, oh God, this is just going to destroy my life. And that was really good. And also, we staying with things that I've loved and have filled me with joy. Season 3 of Ghosts on BBC.
Okay.
Have you seen Ghosts?
No, haven't been following it.
You need to see Ghosts. Watch it with your child, because we watched the first episode at our friend's, and the boy stayed up and watched it, and he just loved it. I mean, there's some stuff that kind of goes over his head, some of the humour, but it goes over his head in a way that it's cool. Like, there's a thing with Ghosts that you can ascend to the next plane.
Right.
One of the ghosts is a 15th century woman who got burnt as a witch. She's brilliant, and she refers to it as being sucked off. Do you not know the pitch for Ghosts? It's genius. It's the Horrible Histories crowd.
Right.
And the whole pitch is a couple inherit a massive old house,
right? And
she bangs her head, which means she can see the 6 ghosts that live in the house, but he can't. And the ghosts are just brilliant. One of them's like a 17th century dandy who thinks he's in love with her. There's the burnt ghost. There's a Tory politician who died of a heart attack while, I think, having sex with his mistress, so he never wears any trousers. He doesn't have, you are as you died. So he doesn't have trousers. there's a caveman who's been there for thousands of years. There's a headless ghost, and who's the other one? Oh, and there's the scout leader who has an arrow through his neck.
Nice.
Bit by bit, you're told the stories, and it's just lovely. It's kind of similar to what was Mackenzie Crook's Detectorists?
Okay.
But wackier. But it has that kind of. It's a hug. It's not going to do anything awful and upset you at any point. It's just really joyous.
No, fair enough.
And you should make time for it, because the boy watched that one, and then he went, "I want to see them all." So we've watched the entire series again.
Oh, cool.
And there's 3 of them, and it's really clever, because in the third one they're calling back to the first one with jokes that I'll tell you because it's brilliant. I think in the first one, he picks the man. They're getting the lawyers telling them that they inherit this place, and he picks up a snack and puts it in his mouth. The lawyer goes, and he goes, "Oh, your granola's a bit weird tasting." And he goes, "That's potpourri." And then at the beginning of season 3, they go back to see the lawyer, and he says, "Your potpourri doesn't smell very nice," and he goes, "It's granola."
Nice.
And I love that sort of attention to detail. But yeah, it's well worth it. If you like that would be my thing. For if you've not checked out anything else I say, then go for Ghosts, because it's just lovely. I filled you with joy, and you can watch it with your children, and they won't get some of the jokes that you get and won't know why you're laughing. Or they'll feel uncomfortable that they do know why you're laughing, they just don't want to admit it. But as well as that, I watched some of Boss Level on Netflix. I don't know if you've come across that.
Nope.
Tom Cruise's Live, Die, Repeat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, imagine that, but terrible.
Oh, okay.
It's like the worst possible version of that, where everything is just explained to you.
Oh.
In voiceover while it's happening, and it's an assassin who people are coming to murder him, but he doesn't know why, and he's trying to find out. But I don't know why, because I ditched it.
Okay.
And then I watched In Time, which is not Justin Bieber, the other one, famous pop star Justin. And it's a brilliant premise in that everyone lives forever. But you have a certain amount of time, and work gives you more time that you can live.
Right.
And most people live with about 10 hours spare.
Right, okay.
And you can share your time with other people, but if it gets down to nothing, you die.
Wow. And
then there are people with like millions of hours who live in a little gated piece, and you can steal people's time and stuff like that. But my God, they made it dull.
That's a shame, because that's a great premise.
I imagine it's a book. I think the book might be quite good.
Okay.
But it had a kind of YA feel book to it. You kind of think, this was probably made at the same time as The Hunger Games.
Right, okay.
But the I don't know whether you've ever seen Quantico come up on...
No.
It is the worst thing I've watched in a long time, and we watched 23 episodes of the first series.
Wow. Why?
The first couple of episodes, brilliant.
Right.
Its premise is that it's a new intake at Quantico, and one of the women that's trained there wakes up in the middle of a terrorist attack. And it looks like she did it, but she doesn't remember why or what happened. And it kind of flicks between then and them training, and you know someone who trained them. One of the people that trained with them it's them.
Right.
And it's a really strong hook of a first episode, and then the second one is, and then from then on, it's just appalling. Oh. It's just, she's brilliant at everything. Absolutely everything. She could do it. And she sees the things that everybody doesn't see, and she always turns out to be right, and yet no one ever believes her. It's a bit like Bridgerton in that there are no real characters. There are people who just do things for the plot.
Right, yeah.
And they're all very attractive.
Okay.
And we watched 23 episodes, and it turned out to be exactly who we thought it was in the first episode. So I was cross, but my wife was volcanic. I have wasted 23 hours of my life. Fortunately, she was doing other things. And every situation they get into in Quantica, all the way through, would be solved if they just did their job properly.
Oh, I hate that. That's one of my pet peeves.
Yeah, the most annoying one is there's a woman, one of the FBI trainees gets a bomb strapped to her by the mystery person.
Right.
So rather than saying to the FBI she has a bomb strapped to her, she smuggles her into the FBI headquarters.
Oh, for crying out loud.
You just think that, what? No, oh, God. I'm angry that I watched it.
Yeah, well, I'm angry on your behalf now.
Yeah, and I kind of I kind of wish that I'd said it was really good, just to make you watch it.
Well, I'll fix it. Yeah. I'll fix it in the edit, so it sounds like you did. So at least the people who listen to the podcast will go away with your recommendation.
Oh no! Can you imagine how cross they'd be?
Exactly.
They would just be angry letters. But and the worst thing is, there's 3 series of it.
Oh no!
So no. And I'm tempted to start the second one just to see if
it stays bad.
But
I can't handle that. It's one of the. I mean, not that there weren't a plethora of problems with the final season of Game of Thrones, but one of the things about that really drove me completely up the wall was how certain key characters' IQs just suddenly plummeted by somewhere between 50 and 100 points in that last season. They had to let everything fall into place. So I mean, I'm not going to spoil it just in case for some reason there's anyone out there who hasn't seen and still gives a shit about Game of Thrones, but it was unforgivable. It really was. I mean, some of the characters' basically entire personalities and approaches got completely betrayed by the need for them to do something stupid so that we could get to the end game. And I don't know. It's the worst. It is the worst.
I ditched it, I think, at the end of the one where this is a bit spoilery. A thing happens to Jon Snow at the end of the series.
Yeah.
I saw that coming, and I just thought, I actually want to watch that. I know it's coming. I don't want to see it. I'm out now. But I know a lot of people are quite angry with things Daenerys does in the final episode. Yeah. But I thought that was telegraphed.
No, that was
early on in what I saw.
I mean, actually, that was my problem with it. Was with the Daenerys plot was not that it wasn't telegraphed, but that it was, and it was kind of dull. Yeah. It was kind of like, oh, really, that's where we're going. Okay, whatever. No, but there was some others. A couple of the brighter characters, Tyrion, and I'm blanking on his name, but the advisor who was also a eunuch. I can't remember the character's name.
He's one of the spy master.
Varys, was it?
Yeah, probably him and Tyrion are the most interesting characters in it, I think.
Yeah, really. and Varys in particular in that last season just suddenly loses about 90 IQ, and it's so upsetting because he's such an intelligent character and such an important character and he's one of those. He's a great character.
The Spider.
Varys the Spider. Yeah, there you go.
Well done, Fiddles.
And the layers that reveal of Varys as his story goes through, he's actually one of the most interesting characters in the entire show. And then suddenly he just turns into a drooling idiot for the last 6 episodes. And it's just like, don't do that. Don't do that, you stupid show. So, yeah.
I think I gave up on it. And I've said it for the reason I gave up on the books. And I've said this before, and this isn't demeaning Ger Martin as a writer, because he's a very good writer. Sure. But I saw what he was doing, which is that he would set me up to like a character and then kill them, which is shocking at the start. But once you see that as a mechanic, you just think, well, I'm not going to get attached to anybody in this.
I refuse to invest. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the reason. And I still maintain that the Red Wedding exists because he had too many characters to finish the season off.
Maybe. Yeah, I still think it was a great moment. I mean, I think
it was brilliant.
Yeah, but you're probably right.
Yeah. That was my writer brain was thinking, you needed to get rid of some people here, and it was. But he brought some of them back as well. Did that happen? That didn't happen in the series, did it?
No, I don't think so. I think the results of that were pretty permanent. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just reading what people are saying as well. My voice is going a bit because it's stupid cold.
I've been trying to think about, because it's ridiculous. I have actually been watching a hell of a lot of telly and a lot of movies and stuff, but I can't remember most of it. We did watch Black Widow, which I thoroughly enjoyed with Kiddo.
I kind of enjoyed it, and the weirdest thing was that I thought Black Widow was actually the least interesting character in it.
I think in some ways that's true. Yeah, I think the family was really interesting. I did love Red Guardian. I thought they did a great job with him. One of my favourite kind of. No, go on.
I didn't know who any of those people were.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Talk over each other for the rest. I didn't, because I don't know about I didn't know who any of those people were, but I found them. And Scarlett she was the producer, so I presume she took a decision to step back and let the other characters shine more, which is really generous of an actor.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a smart move for the story too, because it ultimately was a story about kind of family, and it was. I'll tell you what was weird about it. I found myself getting nostalgic for a film franchise that had only just finished. It made me nostalgic for Marvel Phases 1 to 3, because I know that I've been watching the new stuff. I watched Loki and various others, and it's very clear that they're going somewhere very, very different with the storytelling now. And whatever, and I'm not judging it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the 10 Rings that's just come out, and I'm looking forward to the Shang-Chi movie and the other stuff, Eternals. And I don't have a clue what it's going to be like. Multiverse of Madness. I'm up for it, but they told a story in those first 20 odd movies. They told a story of that version of the Avengers, and it ended. And Black Widow is just it's a postscript to that era, because it's set in that era. I mean, that's not really a spoiler. It's set in that era of when it has to be, right? That might have been a spoiler as well. Whatever. But
there's the thing that happens. This shows you how much attention I pay, because the thing that happened, the place they visit at the end, had me think, I didn't know that had happened.
Okay. But yes, I really, but it reminded me how much fun I'd had with that series of movies, watching them with Kiddo, and it really did. It was nice to have almost like one last hurrah. It felt, I tell you what it reminded me of, actually. It reminded me of Rogue One. That thing where you feel like you're just revisiting that era one more time, just sneaking in the gap there and telling another story and just getting to be back in that kind of classic period of storytelling. And it did feel a little bit like that. So I was surprised at how, because if you'd asked me before, I wouldn't have suspected I was that kind of, frankly, that emotionally engaged in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I think it's because Kiddo's grown up with them, and we've gotten to do the whole lot of them together. We did that whole run, and I'm thinking, like, that's just like, I mean, we could kick the faults around forever, and it's not like they're not there, but it is a staggering achievement in terms of storytelling. There is nothing like it, I don't think, in cinema history. It's kind of impressive, It
is impressive, but I would say, is it just television put onto the cinema? Does it do what television does? It tells a big multi-part story. I'm not sure anything on television has done something that big.
No,
to be fair, but is it just sort of an hour and a half long episodes of a television program that lasts?
I don't think so. I think interestingly, I don't think so, because I think that for me, when they've tried to shift to TV, they haven't really landed it yet. I enjoyed Loki, but it felt stretched. I mean, WandaVision was superb and experimental, but also it was a movie's worth of plot stretched to 8 episodes. It actually was not 8 episodes worth of plot, anything like. It really wasn't. And I understand why they were doing it that way in the format they were going for. But for me, when I got to the end, I was like, that would have been a great movie. And it just felt like I was being strung along a bit for the series. Loki felt a little bit like that as well. Winter Soldier's a whole other thing that I'm not prepared to get into right now, because I have. At some point, I suspect I'm going to write a very long, very angry essay about Winter Soldier. It had the penultimate. I'll just say this: the image at the end of the penultimate episode is the single most daring thing they've done with the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe thing, like in forever. And it was amazing. And I got goosebumps. I was like, oh, I cannot believe you just done that.
The film Winter Soldier or the
series?
series?
No, the series. So I think it's 7, and I think the end of episode 6, the image at the end of that is definitely one of the most striking, amazing, incendiary things I've ever done. And then, in my opinion, episode 7 was just the most disappointing wet fart. They just blew it.
You might have to remind me what that is.
Well, I don't want to. Yeah, maybe we'll do that.
Yeah,
we'll do that offline because. I don't want to. Look, I'm glad I watched the series, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone. But
yeah. I found it. I watched it with the boy, and kind of found myself doing other things.
Sure, no, I can well imagine.
But I think my problem with Marvel is that I'm not invested in it.
No, that's fair enough.
And I watch each one as a film, and a lot of the time, things that I know people are very excited about, I'm just thinking, who is that? I don't know who this person is. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, what I do think is it's at its best when it's actually using superheroes as a lens to do genre movies. Like, I think Winter Soldier's one of the best ones because it's not really a superhero movie. It's really a kind of espionage thriller. You know what I mean? But with Captain America and Black Widow in it. But it's not really a Captain America movie. You know, it's really an espionage thriller. And some of the others.
Amount of time for Thor Ragnarok, though.
Oh, God, Ragnarok's fantastic.
I rewatched that recently, and it's just a great film.
No, that's Kiddo's favourite of the entire cycle, and I can't really fault her on that. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, that's pure, but that's just pure joy, right? It's just pure glee, and it's when they finally figured out with Thor, it's just you turn the camp dial up to 11, then you snap it off, and then you just go. And the confidence of that movie, the confidence of the script.
I even forgive him for cutting his hair.
Yeah, which is very upsetting.
Yeah,
very upsetting.
You have the same problem with me for that. I'm very, very excited, and I'm going to make one of my very rare trips to the cinema to Dune.
Okay.
I think it looks superb. Are you interested in Dune, or is it just like her?
No, Dune's passed me by, I'm afraid. I know I have seen at some point in my childhood. I know I've seen it was Lynch, right? I know I've seen the Lynch movie, but I've got beyond a couple of very striking images. I have absolutely no memory of it. I remember playing the Amiga 500 video game of Dune and briefly being completely transfixed and then losing interest. But no, I don't. It's not grabbing, and I can't. If I was going to go back to a cinema now, it would be Candyman. I am thrilled about that, but I just can't do it yet. I can't do the cinema. So the second that gets to any kind of demand service, I'll pay any ludicrous sum to rent Candyman for 24 hours because I'm very excited about that.
That does look too scary for me, but interesting. See, I really like Lynch's. I like the book.
Right.
I read the book first, and then I like Lynch's version of it. It is not the book.
No,
in a very extreme way. Like they have guns that are done by sound. I'm pretty sure they're not. It's a long time since I've read the book, but they're not there. I'm sure. And I know that so much of what we like is stolen directly from just Star Wars, as Nick loves from Dune and stuff like that. And I've watched the trailer, and there is something. I like that director. I think the stuff he's done. He did Arrival, which is one of my favourite films.
Oh yeah.
And broke me. Sat and wept at the end of Arrival. And then he redid Blade Runner, which I thought was fantastic as well. As a film that actually nothing happens in, but looks beautiful. And I think he's the perfect person for Dune because it is quite sort of metaphysical and strange, is Dune. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I'm going to go to the cinema because I'm quite sure if I leave it a couple of days, it'll just be empty.
Yeah, I am thinking about that, actually. That is a good point. I am thinking, because like Candyman, part of the issue is I want to see it on the big screen. I mean, it's the first time I felt that pull since COVID and thought, oh man, that's going to be something special. But I don't know.
And should we do music?
We could do music if you want.
Should we do that? I think so. My voice. Oh, we should say if anyone is going to be at FantasyCon.
Yes.
We are going to be at FantasyCon.
We are.
Scott is going to be, as he is now, not here.
Not
but we are going to be, and there is going to be a Writeopolis live at FantasyCon.
Yes.
There almost wasn't, because I mixed up AM and PM.
Yeah. You actually thought we were doing an 11:30 p.m. start, like
on a Sunday,
which I would have been up for, to be fair, but I couldn't. Yeah, but it would have just been me in a room
on a Saturday, especially because one of our guests would have been absolutely leathered by that point.
Right. Well, do we want to tell people who the guests are going to be, or should we keep that secret? What do you think?
I think we should tell them, because they're not like new guests, are they?
No, that's true. They're not
shiny
guests.
New guests. They're kind of second-hand, already used guests. Bit grubby.
Greatest hits guests, if you will.
Yeah, they're greatest hits guests. So, do you want to we'll do one each?
Okay, so so one of the two guests we will be having return to the show is Laura Mauro, who you will remember from earlier in last season of Writeopolis, as we will now call it. I wasn't actually sure Laura was going to be there, because I know she's actually going to some. She's doing like, I think she's doing a Scandinavian FantasyCon event, isn't she?
She's there now, isn't she?
She's there She's there as we speak. But she is coming to FantasyCon as well. I mean, you'll know about Laura. She's an incredibly talented writer. She's currently doing a PhD as well, and she's recently actually branched out in employment terms. She now works for a games design company as well, video games, and she's writing there as well. So we can pick her brain about that. And yes, indeed, she does. Laura is also a fan of the Weeby Fighty Man stuff. So yes, that's also true. That'll be great.
And the other guest is Stark Holborn is coming back, who's always good for a laugh. So that should be fantastic. And I don't know if we might try for another guest, Kit. I've been thinking about that today. I thought I'd just bring it on you live.
Well,
no,
that's fine. The only slight concern I have is I thought I read something in the guidance about only allowing for, because of restrictions, that they were only going to allow 4 people presenting. So we might run into a capacity problem. I'd be well up for it otherwise, but I suspect actually, I mean, to be fair, between Stark and Laura, we're not going to get a word in edgeways anyway, which is as it should be. They'll be fantastic. Yeah.
So that will be fun. Right up. So I don't know if we'll be able to record it or not, or if it'll just be
not a clue.
A FantasyCon thing.
If we can, we will, obviously. But it will be in a room, Katie, where people can sit. That's the entire point. Oh yeah, we should get Adrian Tchaikovsky. That'd be fantastic.
Finishing off.
Yeah. Well, just sit there with those eyebrows. I mean, that man has the most incredible. I mean, he's a lovely man in many, many respects, but he does have the most incredible eyebrows, I think.
He does. He's fantastic. And he cultivates them.
He does. Oh, he must do assiduously, because you don't get eyebrows that fabulous by accident. What a wonderful, and yet weirdly I don't resent him for it, because he's such a wonderful human. So
no, he's lovely. He lives quite near me as well, so I see him quite regularly. And I know all his secrets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I can tell you his secrets that I probably just make up. Like he's part owl. I don't know whether you knew that.
I knew it. God damn it. It explains so much.
Yeah. Right. Songs. I'm going to go with a song that it's an artist that I'd come across before, not particularly clicked with me. And then somebody mentioned a song of his and I listened to it. And when somebody just nails something?
Yeah, absolutely.
He does that. And he's called Amigo the Devil. And it's lots of sort of folky murder ballads, quite sort of. He's from a metal background, but his music's quite acoustic. Mm-hmm. And the murder ballads don't do it for me. And I'm not quite sure why. There's a bit of Major Key stuff going in there. And then he's written this song called Cocaine and Abel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I think is probably based on personal experience or someone he knows. It has that feel to it of something that means a lot to him. and it's acoustic and it's got strings and it slowly builds to a crescendo where it sounds like he rips his heart out.
Nice.
And it has the most amazing lyric all the way through. It's just bang on. And I even wrote it down because the final lyric where he really goes through with his voice is, I've always been scared of loving someone just a little bit more than I'm loved.
Oof.
Yeah, and I just thought,
oh, yeah, there you go.
Just a stunner.
That's the good stuff. That's the good stuff.
So that's mine. I put it in the chat for you to have a look at. So that's my
nice.
track for this week. What about you?
Yeah,
did your Triceratops skeleton arrive?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
I did actually go to one of the things I did with the kid over the summer was we went to oh god, I can't even remember. We went to Whipsnade, which have a dinosaur exhibit, and there was actually a moment where there was Triceratops fighting with a T-Rex, and I have to say Triceratops not winning that fight. You'll be shocked to hear. And I will present those images at a future Writeopolis because I think you will need to know the truth about how rubbish Triceratops are at fighting.
Well, let's just be honest, though. You're seeing that halfway through the story, where the hero always has to seem like they're losing. So you get a big comeback, don't you?
Well, they were very, very, very convincing bit of losing there from the Triceratops. That's all I'm willing to say. So yeah, but as far as songs, it was there were two possibilities. There was a pop tune that my daughter's been listening to a lot lately that she played, and I thought about that one. But what I'm going to go with is I was talking with someone about my next big non-fiction writing project once My Life in Horror is finished, which is very nearly done now. And that will be a music project, and it will be a project writing about a lot of the, amongst other things, but I'll be writing about live shows that I've been to. And I was riffing on the coolest thing I've ever seen a guitarist do on stage. Now, bear in mind, I've seen Brian May on stage. I've seen Slash several times. You know, I've seen a lot of, by any reasonable description, world-class guitarists. John Frusciante. I know the Red Hot Chili Peppers aren't terribly popular anymore, but John Frusciante with the Chili Peppers, that man on his day, just spellbinding musician, no question. But the single coolest thing I've ever seen, ever, on stage, was at Heaton Park, and it was the Stone Roses reunion show. And they were playing Fool's Gold, and they got to the bit where they dropped down, so it was just the bass and the drums, and then just the drums, and then the bass came back in. And the camera zooms in on John Squire, who's standing on the stage about to start, you know, the big outro guitar solo that's going to go on for about 20 years. And as the camera zooms in on Squire, he stands there perfectly still and just rolled up his sleeve. And then started playing. And it was absolutely the coolest thing I have ever seen a guitarist do, and then proceeded to play the most incredible rendition of the outro Fool's Gold that I've ever heard. So that's it for me. It's Fool's Gold, Stone Roses, one of the longer mixes.
I think it says a lot that it is their best song, and it's a cover. And I really like the first Stone Roses album, but Ian What's His Face turned into a prick, hasn't he? So that
I suspect he probably always was, actually. Yes. I don't think he's so much turned into what it's revealed, but yeah, it's I was talking with a mate about that the other day, actually. We were talking about how, like, the ones that have disappointed you, but it's worth remembering the ones that haven't as well. Like, the Stones put out that track, and it actually wasn't anti-anything. It was just like, oh, this is a bit crap, isn't it? You know, and you know, Pete Townsend's been quiet. That's nice. You always worry about Pete if he's going to do something stupid, but he didn't. I
do like the fact that Axl Rose came out swinging for Trump and anti-vaxxers, which shocked me.
Yeah, Rose has gone on a weird journey because he has actually gone the other way. He's done that weird, he's getting more left wing as he gets older thing, which is very would not have predicted, right?
No, if you'd asked me to peg someone who would turn out to be absolutely horrendous when they were in their 60s, it would have been Axl Rose. But no,
he's mellowed apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good on him.
Anyway, yeah, absolutely. Hey, look, there you go. So if Axl Rose can start to redeem himself as a human being, maybe there is hope for us all. Who knows?
There's hope. And talking of music, there's something I want to talk to you about when we're off there.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, which is, I think, interesting.
Okay.
But we better stop now before I lose my voice entirely.
We really should, because you're getting a bit croaky there. No offense, but
I am quite croaky. We are coming back in 2 weeks. We've not lined up our guest yet because we're crap.
there will be a guest. Yeah,
there will be a guest. There are some. I might see if I can get hold of Louise Stowell, who's a children's writer, and she's lovely.
Cool.
So I'll have a word with them. I'm not sure if it's she or them. I'll check that. But brilliant. I really make me laugh on Twitter a lot. And there are a whole host of extremely famous writers that we intend to have on that we've not even asked yet. I doubt they'll all turn us down because we're just fantastic. It's been lovely having you all back again.
And I gotta say, I really like it's a bit. I'll do my one sincere bit in the entire show. I have missed talking to you. It's really nice to catch up with you again.
I always miss talking to you.
Yeah.
And we'll see you at Fantasy.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely.
It's lovely. Because I don't know whether the people know the rule in our house that you can't actually say Kit Power in our house without my wife going, "Oh, we love Kit Power." That's always what happens. It's just the rules of our house. And with that, I'm sure you all love Kit Power as well. Night, everybody.
Right.
I'm going to sign out.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Thanks for listening. Writeopolis records alternating Sundays via Discord. To take part in future shows, visit patreon.com/Writeopolis podcast to find our server details. You can also support the show there in return for Discord perks and early access. If you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and spread the word. Thanks again. Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid it. Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, yeah.